We are now turning to Parshas Bechukotai. At the beginning of Bechukotai, it states, in Bechukotai telecho, if you walk in my ways, mes mitzvosai tishmeru, and you guard my commandments, va'asisem osam, and you do them. Now, what's the difference between walking in my ways and guarding my commandments? So, Rashi tells us, if you walk in my ways, I might think that this is fulfillment of the mitzvos. I might think in Bechukotai telecho means, if you walk in my ways, if you fulfill my commandments. It can't be that that's what it means. Because the next phrase in the Torah says, if you guard my commandments and you do them. So therefore, that's the fulfillment of the mitzvos. So what does it mean if you walk in my ways? Shetiyu amelim beTorah. It means that you need to be laboring in Torah. It means that you need to be working incredibly hard to study the Torah. It's not just fulfillment of the mitzvos. One has to work hard to study the Torah. So I saw about this in Rabbi Zevin. Rabbi Zevin tells a powerful story about this, about Rabbi Elimelech of Lejensk. He tells the following story. Just want to say that Rabbi Zevin writes, he doesn't always tell us where he hears the story, but this story tells us, he says that he found this story written in a manuscript by the hand of Rabbi Raphael Wolf of Skoli Galicia, who died in Jerusalem in 1929 at the age of 99. And Rabbi Raphael had heard it from a chassid by the name of Rav Alter of Yasovitz, who heard it from the mouth of the tzaddik Rav Meir of Premishlan, who was the son of Rabbi Aharon Leib of Premishlan, who's the main, he's the protagonist of this story. So he traces back the lineage of this story, and this story this story is very believable. So the story is that there was once a merchant who was a chassid of Rabbi Aharon Leib of Premishlan. And this merchant came he had to go traveling, and this merchant happened to be passing through Rabbi Elimelech's town of Lejensk. He said, well, if I'm going through Lejensk on business, it would be a crying shame not to go and visit Rabbi Elimelech, the great tzaddik. So therefore he settled his business, and he arranged that he was going to stay for Shabbos to see the great Rabbi Elimelech. So that Friday morning, this businessman, this student of Rabbi Aharon Leib of Premishlan, he goes to the mikvah, and after he goes to the mikvah, he goes to greet Rabbi Elimelech. Rabbi Elimelech welcomes him in, and then he says, aren't you a student, a chassid of Rabbi Aharon Leib of Premishlan? The man's very proud. He says, yes, that's my Rebbe. He goes, tell me, why is your Rebbe so conceited? The man was shocked beyond words. Why is his Rebbe so conceited? Didn't understand this. This is the great Rabbi Elimelech telling him. But Rabbi Elimelech repeated the phrase, so conceited, said it louder and louder. So the man was shocked, almost in tears. Not only that, but at each of the Shabbos meals, Rabbi Elimelech kept saying that. And so the merchant, who had been so happy to meet Rabbi Elimelech, became very upset. And not only that, when he went to leave Lejensk, came to say goodbye to Rabbi Elimelech. Rabbi Elimelech said to him, make sure when you come home, please tell your Rebbe in my name that I said he should not be so conceited. Now, this merchant, this businessman didn't know what to do. How's he going to tell his Rebbe that Rabbi Elimelech said he was conceited? Not only that, he couldn't bring himself to do it, but on the other hand, he knew if he would start to lie, it would take him down a bad path and it would make things worse. So he saw he had no choice. He saw he had no choice. So when his Rebbe saw him, he told him everything. He withheld nothing. When Rabbi Aharon Leib heard this, he goes, oh, yeah, what have I done? I don't know what my sin is. I don't even know how to do tshuva. I don't even know how to repent. I don't know what my sin was. So he said, he spoke to his wife, and they had no choice. They said, we have to go to Lezhensk. We have to go to Lezhensk. It was a 6-day journey to Lezhensk. So they packed up everything. Motzi Shabbos, right when Shabbos ended, Rabbi Aharon Leib of Premoshon went with his wife in a wagon, and they traveled to Lezhensk. They got there before Shabbos, and they found he knew since he was such a sinner that Rabbi Elimelech, he wouldn't be welcome at the tzaddik's table. So he and his wife went to the market, and they got a bottle of wine, they got 2 loaves of challah, and they got a very small room on the outskirts of the city. And they decided they're going to spend Shabbos there. And he went to find the mikvah. Then, before Shabbos, he entered Rabbi Elimelech's house, and he found himself amongst the hundreds of Hasidim who also wanted to get a blessing from the Rebbe. So he made his way through the crowd and extended his hand to receive the Rebbe's handshake. But this Reb Aharon Leib of Premoshon was keeping his head bowed so that the tzaddik shouldn't see his face. But Rabbi Elimelech, he had such ability to see, he saw right away that it was Rabbi Aharon Leib, and he went to call him back, but Rabbi Aharon Leib had already ran off. So he went to a different shul for Shabbos davening, and Rabbi Elimelech was back in his place. And everybody was waiting for Rabbi Elimelech to sit. He says, no, we can't sit until we find Rabbi Aharon Leib. So they sent everybody, all the Gabayim of the Rebbe went out to look for Rabbi Aharon Leib, Premoshon. They couldn't find him. They came back, and they said to Rabbi Elimelech, we couldn't find him. Rabbi Elimelech said, no, I'm not sitting down to eat until we find him. They went out again, he came back. He still refused to start. Finally, they found him that a penniless Muhammad at the edge of the town had taken him in. So Rabbi Aharon Leib came to the Rebbe's table to sit down, to have Shabbos dinner. Suddenly, Rabbi Elimelech is so happy he's there. However, to everyone's surprise, several times through the meal, he said, who would believe that Rabbi Aharon Leib should become so conceited? Several times through the meal, he said, who would believe that Rabbi Aharon Leib should be so conceited? And he didn't just say it at that Friday night meal. He said it at every meal on Shabbos. So when Shabbos ended, Rabbi Aharon Leib came to Rabbi Elimelech to say goodbye. But he had to know. He says, I need to do tshuva. I need to repent. Tell me what I've done that makes you call me conceited. So says Rabbi Elimelech, Rabbi Elimelech said, is there any conceit greater than what you've done? Because I know that many times, Eliyahu Navi has come to me and complained about you. Eliyahu Navi has said to me that you are such a holy man that he wants to teach you the Torah, and you refuse to study with him. Think about how many tzaddikim have yearned to study with Eliyahu Navi, and you decline to do it. So I promised Eliyahu Navi that I would do my hardest to try and change your mind. And so that's why I'm telling you, don't be so conceited. Study with Eliyahu Navi. So Rabbi Aharon Leib of Parmashlan said, to understand this, Rabbi Aharon Leib would never argue with his Rebbe, but he says, I cannot agree to what you are asking, Rabbi Elimelech. I can't agree. How come, says Rabbi Elimelech? He says, because of this week's parasha, in Bechukotai, if you walk in my ways, that means that we can't get the Torah from Eliyahu Navi. We have to work hard on our own for it. We can't just get it easily given to us by Elijah the prophet. So the Torah becomes the possession only of one who gives his life in his effort to study. So that's why I refuse to study with Eliyahu Navi. The Torah that's just given to me without work, that doesn't have the meaning of what I'm looking for. And that's why I refuse to study. So Rabbi Elimelech, when he heard this, he said to Rabbi Aharon Leib, you're right. And Rabbi Aharon Leib went back to Premishlan, and Rabbi Aharon Leib had a day job. He was a laborer. He was a laborer in the fields. You know, he was, you can imagine him as like a plumber or something. He wasn't a scholar who didn't work during the day. He was a scholar at night. And so that's the story of why Rabbi Aharon Leib was called Conceited, because he refused Eliyahu Navi's study. I want to say about this connects to this powerful commitment of Rabbi Aharon Leib connects to something I saw in the Dudai Ruvain this week. Because the Dudai Ruvain talks about this. He talks a lot about this verse, Bechukotai, that you have to be a Meilim b'Torah. You have to take this overwhelming commitment to Torah. And by the way, this brings us back full circle to what was the difference between Ruth and Orpah. Ruth was somebody who had this amelus, this devekus, this overwhelming commitment to Torah study. Whereas Orpah, her commitment was thin. Without a deep commitment, it's not possible. So what does the Dudai Ruvain say? Hold on, let me just get a drink. Hold on 1 second. So the Dudai Ruvain says as follows. He says, what does this mean? If you walk in my path, that's mishpatai tishmoru, ma'asisam osam, what will be the result of this commitment, this deep commitment to Torah study? V'natati shalom ba'aretz u'shachavtem ve'imach. If you have this deep commitment, then I will give peace in the land, and you will lie there without being afraid. He said, we have many tasks ahead of us. He's writing this also in the 1950s, around the same time that Rabbi Lamb writes his sermon. And he writes, he says, Muftacha Medina. He says he's promising the state of Israel that if you will be committed to Torah study, if we will have a firm commitment, then we will uphold this verse, Vakimosias Brisi Etchem, that I will uphold my covenant with you. And so Rabbi Lamb and Rabbi Reuven Katz writing at the same time, but on opposite ends of the world, both said that the key to the continuation of the Jewish people is a deep commitment by each of us. And that's what this verse in Bechukotai telechu means. It means that we can't expect to get the Torah from Eliyahu Hanavi. It can only come by toiling in it day or night. That's the message of Ruth Dovkaba, and that's the message of our parsha. So we'll stop here. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to address.